See, all this Islam stuff makes sense when you just really start thinking about it. Han Meditations. This is about the seventh heaven and what it contains, because in one of our videos, we're really just watching a lot of videos we want to know about. It mentioned when we watched the video about Allah, the throne of Allah, it talked about 7 different heavens. That was my first time hearing about that in Islam. It kind of sounded like 7 different levels, 7 different dimensions. And it said they don't really know the amount of time it takes to get there, or the speed it takes, but it takes like 500 years, I believe. Between each heaven. So I was actually wondering, like, what if it's 500 years of knowledge you need, 500 years of information and learning that you need before you get to the next heaven. So I have no idea what it's going to say. I just want to learn more. So let's check it out.
Everything that you see out there, from your Jupiter to your Neptune to your Pluto, and then to your galaxies, which contain millions and millions and millions of stars, and then there are millions and millions and millions of galaxies out there. Everything that you see when you raise your head and above, and the scientists have not even got to the end. They haven't even found the beginning of the first heaven, where the heaven actually is. That's just within the first heaven. Everything out there is within the first heaven. You have 7 heavens. The distance between the first heaven and the second heaven is 500 years. Now, at what speed only Allah Himself knows. 500 years it will take from the first heaven to the second heaven. Then from the second heaven to the third heaven. The third heaven to the fourth heaven. Fourth heaven to the fifth heaven. The fifth heaven to the sixth heaven. The sixth heaven to the seventh heaven. And Allah is the Lord of the 7 heavens. After the 7 heavens, you have the kursi of Allah. Allahu la ilaha illa wal hayyul qayyum. La ta'khudhu sinatun wa la nawm. Lahu ma fis samawati wa ma fil ard. Man dhal ladhi yashfa'u 'indahu illa bi idhnihi. Ya'lamu ma bayna aydihim wa ma khalfahum. Wa la yuhituna bi shay'in min ilmi illa bima sha'a. Wasi'a kursiyyuhu as-samawati wal ard. Allah talks about the kursi on the first page of the 3rd juz. The 7 heavens in comparison to the kursi are like a ring in a desert. Take a ring, place it in the Sahara Desert. I ask you, my young friend, what is the significance of that one ring in comparison to the world's biggest desert? You'll say to me, there is no comparison. One little ring in comparison to the Sahara Desert, there is no comparison. These 7 heavens that I've just described before you, my young friends, in comparison to the kursi of Allah, the 7 heavens are the ring, and the kursi of Allah is the desert.
All right, so that's going over a lot of the content we actually saw in the other video. But one main distinction that I didn't really get the first time I watched it was that we are already in heaven. So, and I know it's crazy because a lot of, spiritual people believe we should bring heaven to earth. We're already on heaven, all that. We just have to bring it here. But in Islam, they already believe we're already in the first heaven.
Interesting.
Which is incredible, because when you believe that, then what's the next level? Okay, let's say you're in the waiting room or whatever, reviewing, that's the second heaven. Then you actually go to the next dimension. That's the third heaven. And then there's different levels to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually makes way more sense than it. At first, whenever you see, oh, there's 7 heavens, it looks crazy. But then whenever you start listening to it, it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because the more there's layers to everything, there's different dimensions, there's different plateaus that you get to, depending on what vibration you're on, where you're at, even after you die, whatever. Just saying that there's one heaven and it's just uniform for everyone. Everyone goes to the same heaven and whatever doesn't really make sense. So there has to be different beings on each level.
Right.
Otherwise, what are they there for? They're just empty heavens? No, there's beings there. I would imagine. Only Allah knows, but I would imagine, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure each has its own way of working and rules and systems, and probably just so many. They're probably very, very different for us to even imagine. Like, you know, we're in a 3D physical reality.
Yeah.
And it's hard for us to even like kind of conceptualize any reality that's not like a 3D physical structured, but I'm sure it gets very different out there. And I do like that concept. Like, now that you're mentioning, that makes sense, because, you know, we know like when we pass on, there's a lot going on the spirit side. Like, you know, sometimes even our loved ones who pass on, they can send us a message in some kind of way. So it's like, where are they existing? How are they communicating with us? What about higher forms of ET beings, like we talked about in the video that we just watched?
What level of heaven are they at? Maybe they're on the second level. Maybe they're on the third level.
All different. Where's the angels? You know, so it's like different kinds of beings probably have different
levels that they're on, and so it makes sense. It makes perfect sense, actually.
And I think like we basically are on like the lowest, because here we have such a different kind of reality where, as we all know, the story of Adam and Eve. We have good, we have bad here, and we're constantly being bombarded.
So we have to read the Quran, but one of the things we talked about is we don't believe that you're just doomed to hell for eternity. But what if there's different levels of eternity? Number one.
Yeah.
Because all time is now. So if you're in hell now, you're there for eternity until you're not. So number one, I already solved that problem. So number two, also, if let's say you're doing bad things in this life and you go to a lower dimension next time because clearly you need to learn more, then technically you're below heaven, you're in hell. So you're not in the first heaven anymore. See, all this Islam stuff makes sense when you just really start thinking about it and doing it that way. But I don't know exactly what the Quran says. We still have to read through the entire thing. But I'm just talking, and you guys got to bear with us. We're not saying we're experts on anything. We're learning with you. You're seeing us learn live. You watch us from a year from now, you're going to be like, wow, these guys know so much about Islam and so much about this and that and that. But right now we're just learning. So we're just having an open discussion and talking. Everything we say might not be absolutely correct, but hey, just bear with us.
Yeah, you see us learning as we go. So we're not out here with our journey with Islam, at least. We're not coming to you as a teacher or a scholar, certainly not. But you're watching our learning journey. We're here as students, but I think that can be pretty fruitful and pretty fun and learn things, because the more you learn, the more you can teach, and you can teach.
Like when it comes to God in general, we could teach you about that.
Right.
But we're learning about Islam, because even whenever Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was learning the messages of God, Islam didn't exist. There was no religion.
Right.
But he created the platform. Well, everyone, I believe, Muslims believe everyone already was Muslim when they were born. And then they go back and convert to some, believing something else. But there was no framework for what was what. He was just communicating with God. That's kind of where we were. We're not comparing ourselves to any prophet or anything like that. But I'm just saying that's where we were just in communication with God. God tells us do this, do that, and we would do it. That's why God told us start this channel. We did it. We didn't know it would lead to Islam.
No, never.
We had no clue.
And I also wonder, like, the concept of like ghosts,
Yeah.
Do you believe in ghosts in Islam? Do you have any say in that, because they are clearly like a under level than us. So.
Or maybe they're on the same level, just a different frequency. So something to think about. But thank you guys for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one.